No one ever cared for me like Jesus. That's what we're talking about today on Tuesdays, analyzing the lyric. Typically, we take a song out there in the vast ocean of secular songs and we open up the lyrics and we kind of analyze from a Christian perspective on what's happening. But today, along with last week as well, we're going to check out the hymn book, right? The hymn book you and I, we sing from, the words therein teaching one another when we congregate together. Sundays, and midweek studies, and various devotionals and things like that. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. It's a beautiful song. And for many who perhaps have grown up in the confines, if you will, of the church and all its many blessings, you've probably seen this song, heard this song, sang this song. So that's what we want to look at. Is that okay? That's in our hymn book here with the congregation. It's well, can you see, where am I going? There we go. It's like the blue book, I guess, kind of like a navy blue, a darker blue. It's number 448. Number 448. And there's he. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. Well, because no one ever, it's true. How can someone care for us like Jesus? Right? Some of us come from a Gentile background, right? Some of us pagan in a great many ways. Our worldview, our behavioral practices, and things like of that kind, that nature. And lo and behold, we, through the process of life, pierced, challenged, burdened with various consequences of lawless living, had the willingness to be humbled and kind of seek the purpose of life. Not what we seek it to be, because that's a different category. I want life to be this, so I make it that. No, quite different. We wanted to know the purpose of life, even if it was in direct opposition to what our selfish ambitions and desires sought to achieve or accomplish. And that is a very different path in life. Some say they seek the purpose of life, but they seek their own purpose in life, perhaps materialistic accumulation, career. Some make career to be the purpose of life. What's the purpose of life? My career. My materialistic accumulations, boats and trucks and cars and vehicles and houses and jewelry and clothing and blah, blah, blah. Others may make it about family and only family. Others may find various other venues for their purpose or to seek their own personal purpose. That's quite different, because ultimately all those paths, though some of them honorable and noble, family is a noble embracement, obviously, to take care of family, to have family. It's a beautiful blessing. It's a wonderful blessing. It makes this life that much more bearable, this fallen world, I should say, that much more bearable. But is it the purpose of life to procreate? There is a blessing to find a friend who is humble and genuine, authentic, in which you can enter into a covenant together, a divine institution, and when the blessing is available, children, family, that's a good thing, upright. It can be decent, right? But is it the purpose of life? Well, again, it isn't, but it certainly can be a part of the purpose of life. And you go through that mind frame, that thought, because once you've kind of seen everything else that life had to offer, or the world had to offer, riches, men, women, fame, celebrity, power, um, accumulation of all kinds of materialistic things, social lifestyles, travel, food, clothing, whatever. Once you've received all those things, some of us, we recognize that it's all just empty, truly. If we have to die, like if we have to depart this earth, what's the purpose of all these things? Like some of us think a bit deeper, right? Some of us, our conscience asks various questions, and instead of snuffing it out, because every one of us, I should say, of an independent, accountable mind, our conscience is going to pinprick some questions, and we can either snuff it out, be like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to go. I do not seek to endeavor the answers to those questions. So I snuff those questions out of my conscience, become hardened and calloused, if you will. Well, some of us, we do that for a while, but the pestering questions of the conscience, they don't cease. And so we need to quench that thirst. I've got everything I wanted to have. The world has given it to me. I'm a lawless individual. I live a godless life. I have no qualms with lawlessness. In our past life, we lived a very 1% kind of lifestyle, the lawless side. We made our own rules in that realm of crime in which we had organized. But it was quite empty after a while. It holds no warmth, no depth, and no true valuable friendship, does it? And so some of us just began to question and seek, looking in the mirror. Is this life? Is this what it's all about? To attain fame or riches or power and the praise of men, the fear of men? War? Some men make their purpose to be war, to be tyrants, to be dictators, brutes. Some to be nefarious religious Diotrephes or Pharisees of sorts. Some get off from causing destruction. Some are toxic-minded individuals. Is that the purpose of life? They seem to have made it such. Well, again, you kind of take the whole population, you put it into a panning process, right? Panning for gold, and you shake, and slowly the dirt falls through, and what remains are gems and jewels, diamonds and gold, rubies. Spiritual illustration, of course, or application. All of us are given the free-willed mind to pursue the purpose of life, not our purpose. And that's where most miss the mark. It's not our part. What do I want my life to be about? You can make it to be whatever you want it to be. I did for a long time. We all do. Well, most of us. Well, all of us, I suppose, to a certain degree. And to what end, ultimately? Here I am. Find yourself on a mountain of wealth. Everything is at your disposal. And then what? We die? What was that worth? Now, you can formulate your own departure and think, well, once I leave, I'll shoot off there in the stars and the galaxies, and we'll surf the waves with this, that, and the other, and we kind of create our own scenery of what we think is going to happen afterwards. Perhaps a heathen perspective, a pagan perspective, while we live this hedonistic lifestyle on this earth, trying to snuff out our conscience again, trying to snuff out our guilt or things of that nature. But ultimately, to what end? We don't know. Can we know? Well, some say we can't, of course. Relativism. Relativist. There is no truth to be known. Pluralism, so therefore I'll make my own truth. Emotionalism, because I feel like I want it to be my truth. Maybe different from your truth, but it doesn't matter, because there is no objective absolute reality. There is no truth to be known. We make up our own truth. So therefore, my purpose in life may be different than your purpose in life. Well, no, there is the purpose in life, and that is to be pleasing to the great I am, the Creator, the intelligent engineer who has crafted all good things in his manner. We, human beings, in his image. He is the Ancient of Days. He speaks an ancient language. He has communicated with us through the prophets and then through the Christ, followed through his apostles, his Spirit through man. He has made known his will, his mind, his nature. This is strange language. I would have scoffed at these things. In my past life, I would have scoffed. You fools. But yet, lo and behold, after a while, the burden of death and pain and sorrow and experience of a worldly wisdom humbles you down. For some, it aggravates them into a rebellion, a stubborn, stiff-necked position, kind of like Pharaoh being hardened in his heart, instead of taking a breath and saying, man, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got it wrong, right? We need those moments. If not, how are we ever going to learn? No one ever cared for me like Jesus. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. The world's definition of friendship, of course, is quite different. Insight into some answers on the purpose of life. Why are we here? If you ask modern science and their quote-unquote experts, they'll tell you there's no purpose in life. We've had several sessions, haven't we, on these podcast platforms. There's no purpose in life. We're all a bunch of animals. Primordial soup. It's an accident. There is no right or wrong. We are slaves to the dance of our DNA. Is that it? Well, we thought that for a while. We lived that way, didn't we? Then we saw the chaos, the fruits being born by that worldview. We're like, man, if there is no purpose in life and we're just a bunch of animals, why do things hurt? And why do I have emotions? And why do I have a conscience? And why do I feel sometimes, or an intuition of sorts, that this is right or this is wrong? Why does that exist? A product of evolution? Through which scientific model can we test and observe? And what about all the laws? They're all fabricated, I suppose? Subjective? Thermodynamics? That's just a figment of evolutionary processes? I've looked at the science, or what they call science. It's just voodoo. It's just, again, hedonism, paganism, strange mythicisms, an ocean of isms. So some of us departed, withdrew ourselves from that. How so? By the calling, the question in our mind. Who is this man named Jesus? And we walked this earth, and we've come across what we perhaps perceived as friendships. But what is a friend? In the world, a friend, quote unquote, is an individual who may want to take advantage of you, someone who wants something from you. If he gives something to you, he expects something in exchange. Selfishness is part of the world. To be selfish, thoughtless, instead of selfless and thoughtful, selfish, thoughtless. And then, lo and behold, you muster up the courage to humble your heart towards a seeking path. What do we have to lose anyway? Really? What do you got to lose? That's what I was telling myself. What do I got to lose? I have everything the world had to offer me, and yet still I feel empty. I feel empty. What worth is it for me to have all these things and have accomplished all these things and then die tomorrow? To no longer exist? Is that it? Because if there is nothing afterwards, and we are just a bunch of animals, well then let's just destroy everyone in our way. Who cares? Really? And some live that way, and they practice those things. And we see it on the news channels every day. Well, what is a true friend? Well, we're going to open up the lyrics, of course, to the hymn song, in my song book anyways, 448. Number 448. Turn to number 448. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. Now, mom and dad care for me, don't they? Some people care for us. I've had friends who cared. Maybe they were friendly. Maybe they were not friends. Maybe they were friendly. Well, no human being flawed by the free will of sinful activity can lay down his or her life to save yours spiritually. They can physically, and many have. Our fellow soldiers, they laid down their life so that you and I would have a brief season of peace and liberty. We've since let that go, sadly, since forgotten those things, neglected and rejected. We will once again find out all about that as the days move forward. But friendship is an interesting conversation to see who is a true friend. The Bible would say that an individual who lays down his life for you is a true friend. There's no other friend. Christ, this man named Jesus, who lived among us a few thousand years ago, he was eyewitnessed, and recorded. And through divine power and providence, the fulfillment, the completion of the law made perfect, now in our hands, the 66 books of the Holy Bible, 39 in the Old, 27 in the New. You and I, we live in the New. We learn from the Old, but we live under the conditions, the will, the testament, the covenant of the New. Always grace and mercy, compassion, justice, law, courage, rightly handled. No one ever cared for me like Jesus is the song we want to open up, the lyrics, and we're going to look at what takes place there. Just some, impromptu, introductory kind of conversation. Well, now we've gone further than introductory, I suppose, but what we are delivering stems or sources to the point. Where is our heart at? The inner mind of man and woman. Where are we? Are we so gone from reason? Are we so gone from seeking the purpose in life? From seeking the true and living God? Yeah, most of us, I suppose, we've gone too far to seek any other path. We just are stubborn in our ways. But a few, a very narrow path, chooses to go down that rabbit hole, right? We want to know more. We want to know why. Why are we here? Why must we die? It's quite cowardly to say, oh, it's just an accident, no one knows and no one ever will, and we're just here, so do what you want to do. No, we used to think that way. But what a useless, pathetic life. Really? Okay, so if that's the truth, okay, fine, but that don't seem to fit the model of things we see, nor does it cooperate with our inner conscience. So there's something missing. We should seek greater things. I've had individuals tell me, man, I made all the kind of money I wanted to make. I'm a wealthy individual, but I'm still empty. Why? Well, because we're not seeking the purpose of life. You sought your purpose in life. You've achieved it. But that cup will always be empty or filled with things that just do not quench your thirst. So when we start learning about an individual named Jesus, and we learn from him from the source itself, not from a third-party propaganda or a third-party critic or opposition or no, just go straight to the source. You want to know what a politician truly believes and what he says? Don't listen to the news channel that's in opposition to him trying to tell you what he's saying. You can interpret it yourself. Just go listen to what he is saying. What policies is he producing? What does he believe in? What is he speaking? You want to know who to vote for? If you are a voter, listen to the horse's mouth. Go straight to the source and listen to what he is saying. Listen to his speeches, to his campaigns. Go to his website. Look at his policies. What is he representing? You may not like him as a person, personally, but what is he representing? What is he seeking to bring forth to the community, to the citizenship, to the nation? Go to him directly and listen to what he is saying. Because if you turn on any news channel, propaganda channel, most especially if they are being paid by these politicians, they're gonna favor and they're gonna twist things, and they're very cunning at it, and they'll have you believing all kinds of lies. Well, it's the same thing with everything. If you want to know about Christianity, go to the Christ. Don't go to a pastor or priest or pope or reverend or mom or dad or neighbors or coworkers or family or friends or anyone, but go to the Bible. It's the only source we have. If you say, no, that can't be right, the Bible I can't trust, okay, then no one knows. Who's going to make themselves out to be God? There's always someone. The Bible's not real, so therefore I make myself God. How are you going to build a house without the blueprint? There has to be an architectural design. There has to be a blueprint and a path forward for the carpentry to process. No? Just going to wing it? Going to build a car and just wing it? Going to build a house and just wing it? Even the most educated and experienced architectural designers know there is a design. The Bible is the only source. You have to start reading the book. I would lovingly and kindly suggest to you start reading in Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. Yes, you're not going to understand everything that's being said, but understand this. It wasn't written to you, personally and directly, literally, to you. It wasn't. The Bible wasn't written to us over here in this current era. It just wasn't. But is it written for us and every generation forward? Of course it is. Absolutely. It's an inspired book. It's God's communication to mankind. You want to know what Christianity is all about? The principles of Christ? You have to go to the source. Stop listening to third-party critics or oppositions or individuals who have been deceived by a great ocean of charlatans out there. You know, when Christ walked this earth, he was telling the people, you don't need the Sanhedrin. You don't need these Pharisees, these Sadducees, these chief priests, these elders, these scribes. You certainly don't need the pagans, the heathens, the Greeks, the Gentiles, the Roman powers. You don't need any of it. You stop trusting sources that are not inspired, who have selfish ambitions and greedy desires, and just go straight to the source, to the written word. Yeah, but wasn't the written word written by men? Yes, men chosen by God, inspired to write. It's from the mind of God. So, no one ever cared for me like Jesus. Let's put that up on the screen now. We'll put that up on the screen. We'll have ourselves a conversation about what we see there. Kind of guide our thoughts. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. Friends, please consider subscribing, following, liking, share the link far and wide, drop a comment in the thread, all those wonderful things. My name is Stefan Maillet. The website is addedsouls.com, and I labor alongside the East Coast Church of Christ over here on the East Coast of Canada. Beautiful, growing, healthy congregation. We'd love to have you involved. We study every week. We have a very close-knit social family and growing. Many visitors every other week, many converts. It's a beautiful thing, and we'd love to have you. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. We get to know who Jesus is and know what this friendship is all about, right? That's important. And so the lyrics begin and say, I would love to tell you what I think of Jesus. Right? An individual who has learned who Jesus is, as I am saying, you will know who Jesus is if you read the recorded accounts of his life on this earth. Go to Matthew. Start in Matthew. If you want, okay, fine, skip the genealogy. But there's importance in that. Just know that. There's a reason Matthew opened up with the genealogy, trying to reach his Jewish peers with the good news of the Christ, in which they neglected and rejected. But, okay, and start where you have Mary and Joseph and Jesus being born. And just read. And just read. You won't understand everything, but you will understand some things. And if you seek an expedient way to learn, well, tap into some of us who have been doing these things, who have put in the years of study with it. We'd love to guide you. But again, you have to have an independent faith. You have to trust what the Word says. But you have to learn how to properly interpret it, rightly handle it. When Jesus says he's the door, he's not a rectangular wooden object. It means he's the way in. Okay? You got to learn these things. Got to learn the difference between apocalyptic language and poetry. What is literal? What is figurative? All these things are important. Learn grammar. Christianity is an educated religion. Despite what they try to tell you on TV or in false religious worldviews and practices and churches built by the hands of men, created Christianity in their own image. We don't want to go that direction. We've tried those directions. We're disenfranchised with that. It holds no truth. It's filled with hypocrisy, high-handed self-righteousness, all kinds of things of that sort. So we want to know about the Christ of the Scriptures. So I would love to tell you what I think of Jesus. The Jesus we can read of in the Bible, of course. Since I found in him a friend so strong and true. That's a hard thing to come by. It's the most challenging, difficult thing to come by these days. Hopefully, in priority, the individual you marry, your wife or your husband, they are a close friend, two becoming one. A healthy congregation, brothers and sisters in Christ, who have a reverent, bowed, humble heart, thoughtful, selfless, kind, forgiving, helpful. You can confide in them. They're not taking inventory. They're not taking advantage of you. They're not seeking to manipulate you. They are not of the Judas kind. They are of the Christ kind. Christ. I found a friend in him so strong and true. He is filled with courage and strength. A man walking this earth willfully gave his life. Betrayed, neglected, rejected, shunned, spat upon, mocked. His own culture, his own lineage, given to the hands of godless men to be crucified, willfully giving his spirit for the redemption of mankind. Yeah, I found in him a friend so strong and true. Why would he have ever died for someone like me? The man, Jesus, was a kind man. He was a courageous man. He was a strong man. He stood up against evil. But the purpose in his ministry was to seek and save the lost, those who thought themselves how should I say, those who thought themselves already righteous. Their minds were already galvanized in their own ego and pride. We see those kinds still well and alive today, sadly infiltrating churches. But the kind and humble heart Christ had, but he stood strong against evil. He exposed evil. He was just, and we are wise to learn from him, of course, and he is true, reality. Truth is reality. Reality sets us free from the bondage and slavery of sin and myth and lies, and from toxic individuals. Christ came to tell his people we do not need to fall prey to the Sanhedrin and the corruption that has contaminated its body. You don't need to follow these Pharisaical kinds in their phylacteries, seeking the praise of men who put on a actor's shield for benevolence and prayer, and you don't need to follow them. They're fake. You don't need them to know who I am. I found in Jesus a friend strong and true. He told me I just need him, his book, his words. And others who seek him, his book, his words, and together we can learn. Equal. Since I found in him a friend so strong and true, I would love to tell you. It's a passion of mine. It's truly the purpose in life. I want to tell you about Jesus. He's a friend, and he's strong, and he's true. He's honest. He's real, as today's common slang dialect of the culture. He's real. He's keeping it real. I would tell you how he changed my life completely. Not just a little bit, but fully, completely changed my life. My mind has changed. The direction in my life has changed. It's because of him. He's strong. He's courageous. He's true. He's real. It's reality. I've gotten to know him through the recorded accounts we read in the scriptures. We've read of him to come through the prophets prophesying. We've seen him on earth through the Gospels. And we've seen the establishment of his kingdom and all the wonderful blessings found therein, following his instructions, his covenant, his testament. I would like to tell you how he changed my life. We sought the pleasures of the flesh. We walked according to the flesh. We sought men and women and luxury and fame and power and fear. And we sought to endeavor a daily, habitual lack of consciousness, train wreck. Hey, I'm a French guy trying to pronounce English words. Consciousness, right? Something like that. We did. We went deep into fornication and adultery and homosexuality and drugs and alcohol. We practiced all these sinister ways and corrupt worldviews, and we were living in sin. We indulged in religious falsehoods and shrines and traditions and all kinds of strange pagan practices, and we called it Christianity in our own image. We mishmashed Judaism and heathenism and some little tenets of Christianity together. We called it Christianity. We practiced those traditions. We'd show up at church once in a while, just to say we're Christians or believers. Then we let that go for a while, and we thought ourselves to be animals, and we practiced a very animalistic way of life, and we treated people as animals, and we ourselves thought to be animals, and red rum, lies and cheating, backbiting, betrayal. Some of us were drunken on false religious ways, completely drunk with false religious ways, denominationalism, and all its various tenets and facets. And some of us may have lived a morally upright life, morally upright, but spiritually lost, not knowing the true Christ, the uniqueness of his church, the uniqueness of his plan of salvation, the uniqueness of worship, the autonomy of his local assembly, the governance through the elders, the shepherding through the elders, discipline, withdrawing from high-handed delinquency, all those things. We didn't live that way. We just lived in religious error and drunkenness through that path. I'm speaking of a great many ocean of human beings, myself included in my past life in some of those facets. I would like to tell you how that all changed. We were called out of those things. An untoward and corrupt generation, we were called out of that. How so? When we started reading the Bible for ourselves. And we started to pay attention to those who studied the scriptures. And we went to the scriptures, and together we learned together. I would like to tell you how he changed my life, not some of it, all of it, completely. Of course, that doesn't mean we don't struggle with some of the damage of our past life and some addictions. We do. We are still tempted. We still at times fall prey to those temptations, but we pick ourselves up and try again. But it's this man named Jesus. It's through him there's hope. I want to tell you how he changed my life completely. Truly changed it fully. It doesn't look the same. It takes time. He's working on us through his word. We receive his word. We read his words. We study his words. We begin to believe in his words. We begin to act upon his words, don't we? He did something no other friend could do. He did something no one else could do. Nothing else could do, no one else could do. He's strong, he's courageous, he's kind, he's compassionate. And of course the chorus, no one ever cared for me like Jesus. There's a uniqueness to the Christ in our lives. He was God on earth and died for the forgiveness of sins. We don't need to live in sin anymore because of him. No one else could die on that cross. He was the only one who could go through that specific baptism, death on a cross, as God on earth, perfect, sinless blood. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. Those on this earth, they will let you down. They will say things that are quite hurtful, and they will do things that will be quite hurtful. They'll betray you. They'll take advantage of you. They'll manipulate you and deceive you. They'll masquerade as friends, but their actions are far from friendship. But Jesus, he's not like that. He's different. He gives us the model of what a true friend should look like. And so no one ever cared for me like Jesus. Not to that measurement. Mom and Dad love me. With the great many flaws they've had to work through and persevere from. I had food, shelter, clothing. But to die on a cross as God on earth for the redemption of my soul, no one ever cared for me like Jesus. There's just no other friend so kind as he. There's no one else. You feel empty in your life? You feel void of true meaning? Find yourself constantly depressed or discouraged? I know what that feels like. I know what that is. you feel guilty and burdened from all the many lawless things you've done in your life, all the sinful things you've done, you feel you're just waiting to die, aren't you? Just one more day, just waiting to die. There's a way out of that. There is. I took it. I went for it all the way. All the way. It's all because of Jesus. There's nothing really else. Well, he changed his life because, he wanted to settle down, get married, and have children. Well, of course, that's a beautiful thing. It's part of it, no doubt. But it's not it. It's not the thing. Jesus is the thing. Because I learned who he is. I got to know the tangible evidence. I got to see the fact. Recognize the fact. There's no other friend as kind as he. He died for me when I hated him. He died for me when I did not believe in him. He died for me when I was hostile and aggravated and living lawlessly against him. He still died for me. Now, you and I, we may find the valor and courage to die for a loved one. I know I've counted the cost. I would lay my life down for family and friends, but enemies? People who hate me? Well, Christ did that. Christ did that. He died for me. Why would he do that? Why would someone who doesn't, I don't even know him, and yet he died for me? Kindness is an active practice. He did something. No one else, of course, could take the sin and darkness from me. No one else. No one but Christ. Oh, how much he cared for me. He cared for me. When I didn't care about him whatsoever, he cared for me. I owe my life to him. He gave me hope. He forgave me of my many sins. He can forgive you of your many sins. Oh, I've done too many bad things. It's too late for me. Don't do that. Don't do that. That don't work, man. I've tried that. That don't work. Don't live that way. You don't need to. Hey, eternity's a long time, man. There's nothing you have done that you cannot be forgiven for. Yes, you will have to change your life. Yes, you will have to change your mind and life. You will have to withdraw yourself from certain circles and certain things. You will have to change, but Jesus teaches us how. How much he cared for us. Someone died for you, man. Wouldn't you want to know who and why? How much he cared for me. He certainly has. All my life was full of sin when Jesus found me. It was, what a cesspool of sin we lived. Well, some of you know my past life and how checkered it certainly is. Maybe you have a similar one. And again, it doesn't need... Here's what people sadly fall prey to. Yeah, well, you were involved in crime that was organized and all kinds of lawless living and hedonistic practices and things like that, but I was morally upright. Yeah, but you were snared in false religious drunkenness. Believe it or not, you and I would have landed in the same eternal punishment. Okay? So you may look at those there and say, oh, look at that. That's evil. But if you practice false religious beliefs that are against Christ, you're just as lost. There may be a difference in consequence. Obviously, the individual who lives a morally upright life contributes more so to society in a positive way than the individual who does not, no doubt. But upon departure, in God's justice, which is true and real justice, we are eternally lost, both of us. So don't think that religious falsehood in the ocean of denominationalism, which is Christianity created in the image of men and their selfish ambitions, whether it be sincere or high-handedly deceitful, it don't matter. It is eternally lost. Kind people, decent people snared in those things, absolutely. But they are eternally lost. Just as much as I was in my past life as a crime boss of my district, with a crew and a club in the import, export, and distribution of hardcore narcotics. Fast women, fast drugs, violent ways. If you were snared in the deceit of misguided religious affairs and rituals and shrines and denominationalism, you're just as lost. Now, there's a hard one to swallow, isn't it? That's a challenging one. All my life was full of sin when Jesus found me. I was just at the end of it, right? Looking at the mirror, and I'm like, so what's next? Death? This is it? This is life? This can't be it. Right? All my heart was full of misery and woe. The burden, the heavy burden and consequence of a sinful life seared in one's conscience is deep. And the only way you're going to be able to, sweep it under the rug, if you will, is with pride. And pride is only going to amplify the consequence. You have to humble yourself. My heart was full of misery and woe. I had had enough of it, right? We've had enough of it. Jesus placed his strong arms about me, and he led me in the way I ought to go. And how did he do that? Well, he didn't come to me in a strange little dream at night. Anyone telling you those things, they're lying to you. They may be sincere, but they're sincerely wrong. How did Jesus do that? Now, of course, the song utilizes artistic leniencies, which is fine, to one's conscience. But I know, because I studied it, I know how he put his loving arms around me and how he led me in the way I ought to go. I know how he did that. The scripture, his will and testament, his book, law and love combined, his providence, the things we went through in life, which either harden our hearts or humble us, soften our thoughts, challenge us, pierce us to seek him. All of these things combined. You want to know how Jesus puts his strong arms around us and guides us in the way we ought to go? It's through his book, through the words he written. His spirit is well and alive in the text, right? And again, it says, it goes through the chorus, and the next lyric says, every day he comes to me with new assurance. When I open his book and I read his words, when I go to him in prayer, when I see his providence, he comes to me with new assurance. More and more I understand his word of love. I get it. He first called us out away from a sinful lifestyle. And then he called us away from toxic wolves in sheep's clothing, deceivers. And he continues to teach us. And more we understand his wisdom through his word and our experience in this life, his love and his word. You can understand these things. You just have to read the book. More and more I understand his word of love, compassion, trust, hope, goals, all spiritual blessings, provisions. God provides. God saves. His Son is a king, our Lord and Master. We are not ashamed of those things, are we? But I'll never know just why he came to save me, because I'm not worthy of it. I'm just not worth it. But yet he did. He loves us even after all the evil we've done. I'll never know just why he did that. Why did he save me? Till someday I see his blessed face above. Of course, the moment in which the scriptures, in his promise to come, will be fully spiritually available. The scriptures, they tell us why he has come to save us. But it certainly will be in a very clear spiritual form upon his return. And we are permitted to enter into the heavenly realm. And then it goes back, of course, to the chorus. And it's a wonderful song. It's a wonderful song, and we are commanded, of course, to teach one another with those words and to comfort each other with those words and to understand why we sing those words. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. He is a true friend. And so if we seek to be friends, then we should follow his example. He laid down his life for us. We should be ready to lay down our life for one another. He taught us forgiveness and kindness. We should practice those things. We have too many self-righteous Pharisees in churches now. They take over stuff. When I took over. I know. They take over. They devour. Should learn to know the love of God. The love of Christ. So peaceful, Gives us purpose. We began speaking about purpose in life. It gives us purpose to know his love, to proclaim his word and tell others about his love and how he loved us and died on a cross for you and I, even when we hated him, even when we did not believe in him. We neglected him and rejected him. He died for you and I. I am forever now obligated to his cause. That's it. That's it. We have to. If you'd like to know more, if you'd like to study along with us, that is available. Just have the courage to reach out, contact us. I labor alongside the East Coast Church of Christ. Why do we call it the East Coast Church of Christ? It's very simple. We're on the East Coast of Canada. We are his church. It belongs to him. So naturally, or spiritually, we are the East Coast Church that belongs to Jesus Christ. We are well aware that there are other organizations out there that call themselves Church of Christ this or Church of Christ that. Some of them do belong to Jesus. Don't get absolutely. Some of them belong to Jesus. Some of them, they're cult-like organizations. Some of them are denominations. Some of them are governed or led by very toxic, diatrophic individuals. You have to do your research. You have to seek. But we are autonomous, like the scriptures teach us. And you can study with us. We go from one word to one verse to one chapter at a time. We read it. We allow the text to deliver its message, and we reason with the text together. Maybe you'd like to do that. We have a website, eastcoastchurchofchrist.com. We have a Facebook page, East Coast Church of Christ. You can reach out to us through there, or again, you can contact me through my website, addedsouls.com. Love to talk to you. So there it is, the song, No One Ever Cared for Me Like Jesus. And that is very true indeed. No one has. He is the only name that has been given on heaven and on earth to save our souls. And we need to call on his name. We need to believe in him and call on his name. Right? To be immersed into his body of believers, added to his kingdom. It's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to be. He relieves us of our anxieties and fears and doubts, from the burden of sin, the consequences of sin. He teaches us how to love one another and be better in life with everything. He teaches us to be good stewards of this existence and everything in here. We'd love to study with you. Reach out to us. All right, friends, stay positive, stay focused. Lord willing, tomorrow in our midweek studies, we continue in the book of Exodus. And man, we are having a lot of fun in Exodus. Exodus has a lot of wonderful information for us. So hopefully you'll join us. We go live Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. Please consider subscribing, following, liking, sharing, all those wonderful things. It helps the material move forward. Surf the algorithm wave, if you will. And perhaps you are a Christian and you see the value of our mission over here on the East and the Added Souls efforts, and you'd like to contribute, you'd like to partake, you'd like to financially support, because, man, that would be awesome, really. You can do that. There are opportunities to do that. You can reach out to me and we can have a conversation about that. You can sign up to addedsouls.locals.com. You can support there, all those opportunities are available to you. And we certainly have a wonderful circle of supporters, and we'd love to have you on board. All right, stay positive, stay focused. We'll see you next time. Peace out.